powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you today by Cape Regional Health Systems for a healthier life. Call 609-463-CAPE. Adam Caplan is here. Inside the Birds will be on Radio Row next week. We'll be talking to them live from Arizona, site of Super Bowl number 57. The Philadelphia Eagles will be in the house, and of course we'll be covering it, and we will be there as well. We want to thank First Bank of Sea Isle City, Crest Savings Bank as well, Petro Cohen, and Atlantic Care for helping us get out to Arizona. They're just some of our great sponsors who are a part of Radio Row this year. Adam Caplan is in the house, and he joins us for another edition of Football at 4 right here on the Sports Bash Live. What's going on, Adam?
Michael Gill, I'm glad to be with you as we are just 9 days from the big game in Arizona. Looking forward to it. Yes, so we're broadcasting Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from Radio Row. Myself, Mosher, Andrew DiCecco, and we've got a big-time show. We just taped it, and we're dropping it Monday with John DeFilippo, the former Eagles Super Bowl winning quarterbacks coach. Philly special breakdown. So much John gives us in this interview I had no idea about. Like Zach Ertz told me, I interviewed him, actually was doing an interview for him for his charity for Thuzio back in 18 after the game. And Zach had said, Mike, that the original play was a running play, which was dubious. They probably should have passed it anyway. But when you hear what DeFilippo says about what happened when they practiced that play during the week, you'll be mind blown. I didn't know anything of this about it, so it was wonderful to talk to John, and he gave us about 40 minutes on the week leading up, the prep work. See, our last interview with him was for Patreon subscribers. It was basically outlining the championship week and what that was like prior to Minnesota and the challenge there. Now we're picking it up, but this one we're going to give to everybody. It drops Monday morning at 6 a.m. on every single platform we have.
Very good. I like to hear that story. I like that kind of stuff, a little backstory on why and how that all happened there. Adam Caplan, the Eagles getting ready for this. We think about the Super Bowl. They're traveling to get out there this week, and obviously the practice and the show must go on. So give us a little practice schedule update, what's been going on, and some of the things that are happening with this team as they prepare.
Yeah, this is interesting, Mike. I don't remember. I'm sure it's happened, but I'm not looking into it. I just don't remember the last time it happened. So they're having a rare practice on Saturday. Both teams are, because they didn't work on Wednesday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and there has to be an injury report at least 3 days during the week of every NFL week and leading up to every NFL game. So they'll have an injury report out momentarily. Again, it doesn't really matter all that much because they don't have a game this week. So what they did is they had a walkthrough yesterday, a 90-minute practice today, and an hour tomorrow. The Chiefs have a similar schedule, though they practice a little bit more in terms of time than the Eagles do. But the only concern coming out with the injuries that we know of, I wouldn't be alarmed. People are seeing Avante Maddox. Some reporters are tweeting photos of him in a walking boot. That's totally expected. We had reported prior to the game that he's back earlier than the team expected. And he played limited snaps, as you know. Now I know they had a blowout win, so he didn't need to play a lot. But he looked very good, by the way, in the snaps that he had. But him being in a boot, I'm not surprised by that. I'm not alarmed. Now, if he is not working when they practice next Wednesday, Mike, that would be a concern. The practice week next week is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They might do something light on Monday, but the real practice week is on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If he's not working on Wednesday, then I would start to be concerned.
Right, and Maddox obviously did play last week. Did we hear anything after the game about that, or is this kind of precautionary in your mind?
No, I think I'm quite frankly, Mike. Look, we had pretty strong sourcing on this. That he had the surgery. Jeff Mosher first reported, and they thought he would. I don't want to say definitely. They felt pretty confident he'd be back for the Super Bowl, and that the championship game was somewhat of a long shot, which is obviously 2 weeks after. The Super Bowl is 2 weeks after that. And here we are. He actually played in it, the championship game. Looked very good. We were told, Jeff noted on our show prior to the game, that you could definitely tell, I guess, from the practice tape that he was coming off something, because he clearly wasn't 100%. Rat was able to run, start, and stop on that repaired toe, but he just didn't look quite like himself. But, heck, you couldn't tell in the game. Now he's obviously sore. That's why he's on the injury report, and the treatment obviously is part of it is being in the boot. But again, the key thing is for him to even if he's limited, just to be out there next Wednesday.
The other one guy I want to get a quick thought from you on is Dickerson, because obviously Dickerson has a hyperextension in the elbow, and how that might, he's going to play in the game, it appears, but how that might limit him at all.
Well, the thing is, he doesn't have the flexibility yet. Now they're calling him day to day. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't play, because when you hyperextend it, you snap it back, and it stiffens, so you can't really bend it. There should be more flexibility next week. But he's got to be able to do his job correctly. That's the thing. As long as he could do that, he's playing. I'm not putting him into the definitely playing category. He may tell people that, but he's got to show that he can do it. But I'm reasonably optimistic for him. And just a couple things here. There are two new injuries. Cam Jurgens with a hip injury, which came out of the game, and Robert Quinn, another new injury for him. This is the foot. That's not good, Mike. This guy is, unfortunately, been hurt since they made that trade. It has clearly not worked out so far.
Adam Caplan, Football at 4, Inside the Birds. What do we know about the Chiefs, who are a little banged up here?
Yeah, well, the Eagles should have most of their players, if not all of them. They're definitely, based on what Andy Reid said and what I know about the injury, unfortunately, Mecole Hardman, he shouldn't have played last week. I give Andy credit. Andy is, for people saying he's boring, he's generally very honest about injuries. He said, look, Hardman lobbied to play. He's had this pelvis injury for over 2 months. He's missed a lot of time. He petitioned to play. He played limited snaps in the first quarter, then didn't come back. He re-injured the pelvis, and he does not expect him to be able to play. Now, what they'll do is, Kadarius Toney, the rookie receiver who they got in the trade from the Giants, actually second-year receiver, he unfortunately now has 2 injuries. He has a troublesome hamstring issue and an ankle injury, but Reed's pretty confident he'll be able to play. Now, Juju Smith-Schuster, he's had this problem knee. We had reported in the spring that teams were concerned about one of his knees, and I believe it's the same knee that he has swung with. Reed's pretty optimistic he's going to be able to play, and he also thinks Toney is going to play. He feels very confident. So the only one he's really concerned about is Hardman, who is almost certain not to play. And Mahomes said, look, though you could clearly see he tweaked the injury in the second half, no worse for the wear. He'll play. They're going to Justin Watson. You might remember him from the University of Pennsylvania, a tall receiver who could run. He's one of their shot play receivers and also plays on special teams. He'll be back. He didn't play last week with the illness. So they'll be mostly at full strength. And obviously the bye will help. The bye's going to help these players. They have 10 players on the injury report, and they expect most of them to play. Yeah,
and we know Mahomes will play. He played last week. Okay. But what did you see from Mahomes? Any limitations, how that affected him, if at all?
It did. Second half, Mike, there were at least 2 instances where he couldn't really plant that right leg. So because he's a right-handed thrower, the left leg's the first leg that goes up, the plant leg, and the power leg is the right one, and it got stiff with the ankle. He just could not throw correctly. It just didn't look right. It looked awkward, and the ball, it was so inaccurate. In fact, did CBS do that game with Romo? I'm
yes.
assuming it's Romo. Yeah, he pointed that out. By the way, I know people are on him. I still think he's pretty good. I just think because his delivery is so different from anything we've seen in broadcasting. Any drop-off is going to be significant because we've never seen anyone do it like him. So I enjoy his energy. You want to say he's dropped off a little bit, that's fine, but overall, I enjoy him. Why is it you're laughing? Has it been like
I have not. I agree. I thought Romo was a breath of fresh air early. Now I feel like he comes off to me as highly unprepared. Like
he has a style. He's kind of all over the place.
One of my pet peeves, Adam, is this, okay? Because I do a lot of play-by-play. My pet peeve is when the analysts ask the play-by-player his thoughts. Do you think they're going to blitz here, Jim? No, we're paying you $20 million to tell me if you think they're going to blitz.
That's the way you're saying it. Sure.
Here's the thing, too, Adam. When you watch Olsen do the game, I'm learning stuff. I'm finding things out. He's telling me, hey, look at the hip placement here, and they ran right off that outside hip, and that's why that play worked. He's giving me reasons why something worked, or he's explaining things. He knows the rules. Sure. Where Romo, the whole game, he's asking Gene Steratore. I hear Gene Steratore breaking plays down the whole game because Romo doesn't know what to say. All he's telling me is, God, that's a good run. He gave you a very good run and a very good run and a very good speed on that very good run.
No, it's one of the things where, because I happen
now
to
remember,
be,
Adam, I do a podcast called Announcer Schedules where we break this stuff down. So I've gone through this
I've
already.
seen that. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. No, but here's the thing with Greg. I happen to be there. I'm pretty certain in 2017 or 2016 he had a bye week, and he was at ESPN doing an audition. You could always tell. I remember telling Dan Orlovsky the same thing. You always could tell when someone's really good without a lot of sort of coaching. Because we all got coached at ESPN, and most of us who are from a national level, you kind of have to get coached. And I happen to know Romo's. Believe it or not, I had the same one of the Romo's lead coaches, Tony Martinez. He was one of my coaches at ESPN. But with Greg, I was blown away. He was such a natural. And Tony, when he first came in, was fearless. I mean, unlike, again, as I said at the top here, unlike anything we've seen before. But you're right. You make a fair point, dude. You don't need to be asking Jim Nantz the question. You need to come with it.
Right.
And by the way, sometimes he'll say, "Here's what I think is going to happen." He predicts it. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yep.
If you're going to have that style, you just have to be willing to be wrong. Where Greg, as you say, does a great job of teaching after the play. Here's what they did, and here's why they did it.
Yeah. Oh, listen. And I think that's one of a lot of people have suggested that now that he's further removed from the game, some of the stuff is now new, and he's not studying the film as much. We'll see. I don't know. This whole article that was written the other day that CBS tried to have an intervention with him because he had slipped so much. Now there's some conflicting reports. But that being said, I like Olsen a lot. I think Olsen is very inside. The way he explained that whole Dallas thing in the game against the Niners with 2:45 left about them not getting the punt team on the field and they should call the timeouts before. I thought he was really good at breaking that down. He does a really good job. But, okay, let's look at this game here a little bit more. Adam Caplan, Eagles roster, 2017.
Oh, yeah.
Let's take a look at how this roster was constructed versus that team here. Because somebody, we were reading some receipts of old text messages before you came on. They were talking about all the misses. And I said, the Eagles' entire offense was drafted by the Eagles except for A.J. Brown. Every other player has been drafted by this team.
So, Mike, what we want to do on today's show, which dropped on all platforms, is that let's take a retrospective of the 17 team versus the 22 team. We don't have time in this segment to do the Chiefs roster and how it compares to the Eagles and so forth, but we do that on today's show. But let me give you a sort of a Cliff Notes version of what this looked like. So let's look at 17 first before we get to 22. So of the 11 starters on the offense, 5 are drafted by the Eagles. Now, I'm not counting Foles. Yes, he was drafted by the Eagles, but he was signed – because remember, he left the Eagles and then came back. So that doesn't count, really. We're just going by how they arrived there in 17. So five of the 11 were drafted. 6, the other 6 were signed as free agents. So Foles signed as a UFA in 17. LeGarrette Blount, what a year he had. In 17, he was terrific. 1 year, great season. Left after that, and he lost it with the Lions, by the way. The Eagles made a good decision. People were wondering, why would they re-sign him? Well, there you go. Jeffrey signed as a UFA. What a great signing that was coming over from Chicago. Torrey Smith, who, by the way, did our show last week. He was terrific. Signed as a UFA in 17. Aguilar was the one drafted player. More or less, yeah. I mean, he was. He would leave later on, but he was drafted. He was one of the 5 drafted. Aguilar, we count him as a starter because the Eagles were a heavy 11 personnel team, super heavy 11 personnel. Remember, that was before Goddard was drafted. Ertz drafted in second round of 13. Now, here's where it gets interesting. To this day, and I always forget this, Stefan Wisniewski was a starter in the Super Bowl. Stefan Wisniewski was an ultimate journeyman with the Jaguars, the Chiefs, who won a Super Bowl, the Eagles when he won a Super Bowl. Signed as a UFA in 16. Where would they be without him? They ran out of linemen. And Brandon Brooks, what a signing. He was in 16. Really, just a terrific player. The injuries obviously curtailed his career. What a great player he was. Jason Kelsey, 6th rounder in 11. Lane Johnson, right tackle, first rounder in 13. Vaitai, Big V, 5th rounder was he in 16, I think? 5th rounder in 16. So, Mike, only 5 drafted. So this is a combination. Joe Browner always told me that. Joe said not every player has to be drafted. It's okay to mix it up a little bit. So the Eagles actually signed more than they drafted more. I think what happened there is, Mike, Well, obviously, Wentz would have been the starter, so you would have had 6 drafted rather than 5. But because of their issues at wide receiver, where they didn't, other than Aguilar, who's up and down, they really had not addressed the position well. And there are certain things they had to do, and they did that. Now, defensively, Mike, same thing. 5 drafted, 6. They had 6 acquired to free agency, 4 UFAs and 2 by trade. So Vinny Curry drafted in 2011, second round out of was it Marshall?
Yep, Marshall, West Virginia.
Yep. Jerry Azanaro actually coached him there, former Eagles D-line coach. Brandon Graham, first rounder in 2010, D tackles. Fletcher Cox, first rounder in 2012, still going strong. Hard to believe. Vinny was just with the Jets. Timmy Jernigan, acquired in a trade in the spring from the Ravens in 2017. That was a nice trade. He gave him one really good year. Michael Kendricks, second rounder in 2012. Hey, who says the Eagles don't spend early round picks on linebackers? Okay, it's been a while, over 10 years. But Najee Bradham, who was Jim Schwartz's guy, signed as a UFA in 2016. Mosher's guy, he did a really good job for a couple of years. Jalen Mills, 7th rounder in 2016. Boy, they give him great mileage out of that pick. And this trade with Ronald Darby, where would they be without Ronald Darby, who was acquired for a 3rd rounder, and Jordan Matthews, who did nothing for the Bills. What a zero trade that was. Malcolm Jenkins, big time free agent signing in 2014, and also at safety, Rodney McLeod, Mike, 2016 UFA as well. So again, this team, Mike, over 50% of the starters were acquired in free agency. That's not typical. That is actually a little different from the 22 team.
A lot different, especially on the offense. Now, this team on defense, they have a lot of, obviously, other guys that they've brought in, as you mentioned, Slay and Bradbury and Chauncey Gardner and Hargrave and a couple of the guys they got late, Joseph and Sue, that they got. And, obviously that's going to really, to kind of piggyback of Jerry Jones's comments yesterday, Adam, that this team is going to turn into the Rams. Their offense is intact, but their defense is going to be very interesting to see how that looks next year.
All right, so 22 Eagles team. Hurts will be back. A.J. Brown will be back. Devontae Smith will be back.
Yes.
Goddard will be back. Dickerson will be back. Lane Johnson will be back. Milano will be back. Mike, you nailed it. By the way, when we did this study, I mean, it is amazing. I didn't know this. I would have guessed like 6 or 7 were drafted. No, 10 out of the 11 starters were drafted by the Eagles. In fact, depending on what set they open with, you could say all 11. If Stahl is not the starter when they go 12, because sometimes they open in 12, as Mosher pointed out, Quez Watkins would be a starter. So that means all 11 players on offense will be drafted. That's unheard of for this team. They don't usually do that. Now, defensively, Mike, only 3 were drafted. 8 were acquired in free agency. 5 signings, 2 via trade, 1 claimed off waivers. That guy off waivers, how about Marcus Epps? This is his 4th year with the Eagles, and he's a free agent. Boy, what a story he's been.
Yeah, Epps, again, the 2 safeties both make under $1 million this year. Epps a free agent. He makes like $620,000. And then you got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who makes about $820,000. So they're going to have, much like last year, where both their safeties were free agents, the same situation this year. You bring them both back, one, neither. That's going to be big.
Yeah,
right?
I see one for sure. One for sure. If they didn't have so many free agents, Mike, they have at least 15, and it's just kind of weird. It's because the Eagles actually got some guys signed to extensions. It's not because they didn't address them, but they did a lot of them in 21. Well, look, here's what we know: Hurts is getting a deal. There's no way that he plays this coming season without a deal. You know how aggressive the Eagles are going to be because the numbers are only going to go up. He's proven enough. He deserves a deal, and the Eagles have so much heat on him to get a deal. I expect that to get done. But when you really look at it, on defense, Hargrave, he's up. We'll see about that. T.J. Edwards, Kaiser White, Bradbury, Epps, as you said, Gardner-Johnson. There are just so many guys. Now, there's some backups also who we didn't mention who are up. But I do not believe at all that this is a now team. They're going to be in trouble in the future. Absolutely not. They've got a great shelf in offense. They have so many starters back. And look, Jordan Davis will be starting next season. That has to happen.
Not to mention, way different from the Rams. They have the 10th pick in the draft and the 31st or 32nd pick. They have 2 first-round picks. The Rams don't have a pick until like 10 years from now.
Yeah, I wouldn't really worry about it. I'm not overly concerned. The Eagles are going to have a good shelf of a football team. They'll probably have 13 or 14 starters back, one way or the other. That's okay. That's typical.
Yep.
Plus, you just mentioned the 2 first-round picks. And by the way, knowing Roseman as we do, he probably will trade. I would say, if they don't find the right corner or right tackle, would you be surprised if they trade down and get more picks? I sure wouldn't be.
Adam Caplan, InsideTheBirds.com. They'll be on Radio Row next week, so make sure you check out all their social media for their content during the week as well. Football at 4 on Radio Row next week in Arizona. And, of course, right here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, it's Eagles and the Chiefs. We'll do more to Monday, right back here on the Sports Bash. Tuesday, we're both traveling out to Arizona, and then Wednesday, we'll pick up the show from Radio Row. Adam, all right, bud, we'll see you out there.
All right, thank you.